Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is SharePoint Power Hour, my weekly show where I talk about just a lot of different SharePoint topics every Wednesday at 11 Central. We go over a ton of different things. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, and today's topic is actually going to be SharePoint Designer workflows working with web services and doing web service calls. So it's going to be kind of nitty gritty and technical. Let's see, a little bit of information before we get started. This is mostly going to be a demo, but we have a conversation always going on over in my Slack channel, which there is a link to in the description of this YouTube video. There's going to be a link to be able to fill out the form to join it if you haven't joined it. And once you are a member and I've sent you an invite to Slack, it's iwmentor.slack.com, and we have a little Power Hour, hashtag Power Hour channel in there, and that's where we have all of our conversation going on. So let me go ahead and get my link shared in there. Let's see, do that. And there we go. All right, web services, and I'll put it in here too. So if you guys are watching in the chat, now you have a link to where the live show is. I did go ahead and put a 30-second delay on the streaming of this video because it will help with the performance as it goes out to you guys. So as you ask questions and things like that, there'll be a 30-second delay from what I'm doing. All right, so let's see, everybody come say hello in the chat window, and keep in mind that the whole reason that I do this live is that I love to get you guys interaction and ask you questions and get sort of feedback as I'm going, and it makes it a lot of fun. It makes it, it's a community effort. So let me go ahead and tweet out. Let's see, we're live. I started just streaming straight to YouTube directly from my computer instead of doing the Google Hangout. So I just now have a link. Workflow. We'll figure it all out, make it smoother sooner. But this is going to be mostly a demo. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. There we go. Tweet. Okay. All right, so workflows and web services. I did write a blog post yesterday. If you go to wonderlaura.com, where I talked about what we're going over in Power Hour today, just some overview, and then basically it's got some reference materials in it to understand just sort of digging into these web services, because once you start digging into web services in your SharePoint Designer workflows, it's pretty technical, so it's bordering on dev, and I'm not a developer, I'm not a programmer, I don't know what JSON is or what REST is, but I figure it out as I go. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing here. So again, welcome everybody, come say hi, and I guess you all can see me, and we're streaming live. So when I'm streaming live directly from my computer, it doesn't let me do the Google Hangout with other people in it like Corey, so that's maybe the Google Hangouts will get better over time. We'll see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my screen sharing and go to my, there we go, and go to my little, shrink that down a little. This is fun. This is the software that lets me stream live while I'm talking. Okay. Actually, okay. So here's just a generic SharePoint site, which is going to be, this is going to be the one that we're going to delve into our looping workflows with. Now, there are a couple of different sort of fundamentals to understand, and here are kind of like this is sort of what I wrote in my blog post, what we're going to talk about as the structure today. But one of the fundamentals is going to be understanding this sort of call web service, just the action itself, and what we're really going to be eliciting or getting from it. And then another one is going to be, then we're going to talk about sort of what structure that it's going to expect in different ways to make it more efficient. And so that's going to be really important, especially when a lot of times we use web service calls, you know, to be able to loop through things in a list in SharePoint. And sometimes I'll just use them if you're dealing with a really large list that it's workflows kind of get awkward when you're trying to go, you know, find maybe some specific information in a large list, or even if you want to just be able to go get one item that's or just a small handful of items from a large list, then we'll use the web service. So there are a couple of different things you need to have in place. First of all, you're always going to have this concept of a dictionary, because a dictionary for the tapping into the web service is going to send information about just the fact that it's using JSON. So it's just a little bit of sort of structural information that it needs. So let me go ahead and pull up SharePoint Designer and do a new list workflow. I'm just going to do a list workflow. Actually, I'm going to do a workflow that is a site workflow, because a lot of the times when I'm looping through items in a list or library, it doesn't necessarily need to be based on something happening on a specific item in a list or library. It just needs to be running, and maybe it needs to run at an interval or something like that. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I do a lot of the times with these looping ones. And so that's what I'm going to do in this case, is I'm going to make it so it's a site workflow. So it's not specific to any list or library. Test web services, and then click OK. All right. And you guys let me know in the chat window, have you done these before? And do you, have you delved into them? Have you had issues with them and things like that? I did write a previous blog post about it, but I've actually learned a lot since then, since I wrote that post. So I'm not going to be referencing that particular post that much. But I do want to point out that I did write about it. I did write a blog post about it, kind of when it was fairly new technology. All right, so we're going to start out with a dictionary now. I'm going to have another workflow that I've created just kind of on another screen, so I can look at things or copy and paste things. So I'm going to do build a dictionary like this. And what I have to do in the dictionary is really just two things, and it's going to be accept and a content type. And don't ask me what any of this means, because I don't know. Accept. And if those of you who are devs in this chat window know exactly what this means and what it's for, feel free to chime in. But this is just the same verbiage that I do in every single one of these that I need to have. All right, so then we're going to call a web service, and this is where we need to kind of like think about what our syntax is going to be and what exactly we want to loop through. And so let me go grab one from my other workflow where I call the web service. Here we go. Copy that. All right, and then I'll do like that. Now let's go open up Notepad. Actually, yeah, Notepad. Let's just do Notepad. And look at some of this information. So this is your current site right here at the beginning. So it's going to be the site, and then this VTI bin, blah, 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 client service. Now this get by ID, you can get by ID or get by title, but this is the list that you want to get information from or loop through. And so that's going to be, you can do get by title, and then you just put the title in quotes. A lot of times if I have one that's got a title with, you know, where maybe you might have different ones that have similar titles or something like that, I don't want it to get confused. So in this case, I just use the GUID. You can get the GUID if you are not sure what the GUID is. Like this one, I'll go get it. Customer contacts is going to be my list. And when I go to list settings, this is the GUID right here. And then I actually have a URL encode decode page that I like to do. To be able to get, here we go, to be able to figure out what that is without all the weird characters in it. So I just paste that in there and decode it. So now I have just a good old number that I can use and copy that. And so now I have my GUID. All right. So let's go back to the notepad. So this is going to be the GUID of the list I want to loop through, which is contacts. And then I can actually do a filter here. So this will make it much more efficient. So I can just delete this part and just have /items. And when this web service query gets queried, it's just going to pull back all the items in the list. And that's what I did in the blog post that I wrote. But you can actually filter it here. So that way I can narrow it down so I can pull back fewer, so I don't have to go and do filtering and loop through and, you know, figure out how to narrow it down later on once I've already gotten all the data. Does that make sense? So I can just filter it later. All right. Let's go see what this data is going to look like. So I'm going to say, what do we want to filter? For my customer contacts, I'll say maybe I want to get all the customers that have company equals Contoso. And I can even do a couple of different filters too. So I could say, you know, company equals Contoso and status is equal to active or something like that. Let's just do one for now. So I need to know for company, what is that field called? Is it called company? I need to double check. So when I hover over this, I can see in the very bottom, in the little status bar in my browser, it says field equals company, and that's just my quick way of double checking that that's the name of the field. So I can say filter where company equals, and I can just type Contoso right here. So I'm just going to type it for now, and then maybe we can change it later, just to kind of, you know, we'll work our way up to more complexity. So filter company equals Contoso, and you have to put it in little quotes. And so I'm going to take this whole thing and go over here, call this web service, and then paste it in here. And then for the current site, I can use the little workflow context, current site URL. There we go. And if it was looping through like the current list, I could do like, you know, current list. Let's see. If I was in a list, it would have options for like what's the list name or the list GUID too. So, but I'm doing a site workflow. All right, so I'm going to go loop through all those and pull back everything where company is equal to Contoso. And I'm getting it. So I'm doing the HTTP GET. All right, so what about all this other stuff? So the way that needs to be set up is request headers. I'm actually going to pull up the advanced properties of this thing. Request headers needs to be variable dictionary, and then response content is going to be like a JSON thing that I'll create. So request headers is going to be that dictionary that I used, and that's like header, just basic sort of information that it's providing that as it does the query, just the fact that it's JSON and it's got that weird JSON string that we, you know, I'm not a dev, so, but that's a good thing about some of this is that I'm sort of translating some of the stuff that it's important that you do need to kind of know syntaxes and things, but also things that that are standard that you can put in place and not have to necessarily worry about what it means, and then it just works. So then response content needs to be a variable, and then response status code. Okay, let's see. See, response status code already has this response code in it, and then this other one that's important that I can only get to from the properties is the one called, let's see, response content. Okay. Create a new variable. splist JSON is what I'm going to call it. And that's a dictionary. Okay, that's where it's going to give me back the information. So this is where I'm going to get all the data that I need. All right, so then what is all this though? So what does that do? What does that give me? Let me do a, we'll just test this. We'll go to the end of the workflow. Now, once I get this information, I can't do a log to history list. A lot of the times in workflows, I like just using log to history list so that it lets me just kind of see what's going on in there. So I need to be able to see what's in here, because that helps me kind of understand all this. And that was one of those things where I would read blog posts and kind of just put what the blog post had in it, but I didn't really understand why or what it was. Jim says, can it go across sites or is it only current and subsites? It can go across sites, and supposedly it can go across site collections, but there's extra stuff you need to do to be able to go across site collections, but by default, it's really easy. It just works across just within a site collection. All right, so let's see. I can't log it to history list because it's going to dump back a whole bunch, like a whole big long just string of all kinds of stuff. So I can't log it to history list because it will give me an error because it's more than 255 characters. So what happens is I'm going to go ahead and just create just a custom list just so I can have this big text field, just so I can dump this information in and see what the heck it's giving me. So we're kind of dissecting this thing. So instead of just kind of spitting out what I've written in my blog post, I'm going to go ahead and we're dissecting this and showing you how it works as we go. All right, I'm going to say stuff and make it multiple lines of text. And plain text is fine. And then for that title field, I'm just going to make it default to just something, just so that it won't give me an error. Or I could just make it not required, either one. I just need to be able to dump stuff into this stuff field in my test list. All right, so now let's go refresh this, because every time I change something in SharePoint, I need to refresh SharePoint Designer so it recognizes what I changed. And then we'll go see and look at what it gives me back. Okay, and then I'll go create an item in my test list. Oh, my test list is not showing up because I didn't wait long enough for it to finish refreshing. Come on, SharePoint, you can do it. I'm just going to go look over here and see. There's no reason for this thing to be slow. Yeah, so the cool thing about this concept of web service is that we can go across within a site collection. We can go find some specific thing in any list, or we can go find a set of things in a list and then be able to iterate through those and then do something with and loop through and do something with all those items, or take all those items and put them in an email, or delete them, or whatever you want to do with them. So I'm going to go, let's see if my list is showing here now. Test, there we go. So I'm just going to say X and then set my field stuff to say whatever the heck is in this JSON thing and publish. So I'm kind of going through this fast. Hopefully if you're watching the recording later, you can just pause and rewind and stuff like that. But I'm already almost 20 minutes in, and I've got a ton to show you in here. Did I make it clear? Does it make sense to you guys kind of why we would use web services? If you look at the reference list while we're waiting for that thing to publish, I don't know what's taking so long. If you look at the reference in here, let's go click on a couple of these. It's got to where we can go do things with the whole list itself. We can do things like get all the names of all the lists and libraries and like the titles of them. It has where we can go do things with the items. So what we're doing right now is we're doing things with the items. So I did get by GUID when I did mine, but like I said, you can do get by title and do things with all the items. And then these references have a lot of information that's going to help you put together that that web service query that I showed you. And again, I'm not a dev. I don't know what a lot of this means, but I understand enough to be able to just kind of go look at what the syntax is that I know that I've gotten to work, and kind of go look at what they have in here. This one is going to be useful because there are things you can do with lists, but there's also, look, see, some other web services are going to be like site users, site groups, and going into a specific library, doing things with specific files. So this is where you can do things that are really useful that you can't do with just normal workflow actions. So my workflow is still publishing. Let's see, I'll let a couple more people in who are requesting to access it while we go. I've got about 50 people, y'all, in a list of people that have requested to join this and hadn't joined, so sometimes I'll go resend the invitation, but a lot of the times I think people's email servers are blocking it. I have never seen a workflow take this long to publish. That's awesome. All right, so again, so what we're doing in this example is we're going to the list, and we're getting all the information from the list. But you can get information from a list by like the fields in the list. Ooh, that's interesting. So what if I want to just go do something where I go get what are all the fields in this list, or all the list on my site? Or what if I want to go obtain, and see what all the users are, who they all are, or groups. The groups thing seems really useful because sometimes people need to be able to just quickly see what those are. Of course, there's an out-of-the-box web part for that, but that's going to be really useful maybe for more custom solutions. And then this would be able to, you'd be able to go get particular folder. In this case, it's calling a library a folder. And in this case, you can go get specific files out of here. So, but what I'm doing is just list items. All right, it published finally. All right, so how do we run a site workflow? We go to Site Contents, and we go to Site Workflows. So what I do a lot of the times with these workflows that loop is I'll just maybe have it run and loop and then run every few hours or something. Or like if I need to get a list of all the tasks that are overdue and send an overdue reminder, that's where you could go loop through that and go just get that whole list of tasks, and then have the workflow loop, once a day, and just pause and then loop again, and be able to go get all that information. Does that sound useful to you guys? Does some of this sound like it's stuff that you would want to be able to do? So sharing points of view. So an example that I'm doing that I've done before is looping through a list of tasks and going through the list of tasks and looking for tasks that are overdue, and putting together a list of overdue tasks and being able to send that in an email. This is not fun. All right. Or one thing that I do just for myself with my own company is every Monday morning I have my timesheet, which is a SharePoint list that I fill out, and I want to be able to send each customer the list of timesheet items that I've logged for their projects. So look, it ran, yay. So it ran. So so it loops. So I just kick it off and it runs on Monday, and then I put it all in an email together, and it sends my customer a nice little neat email with a little table in it listing all the time that I logged that week for their projects. So those are a couple of examples. So let's do go to my little test list. Okay, cool. And go to my items and see what we have in here. So let's go grab all this and just copy it and go to Notepad++. And that's one I was doing. That's a web service. Let's go do another one. I wasn't going to scare y'all with some of that stuff. All right, now for language, I can change this to JSON. And that way it kind of puts it in a little format for me, sort of. All right, now what do we have here? We have D, colon, results. I can start sort of splitting things off where I see these little curly brackets. And then I have this metadata thing. And then I have just some information about my list. I'm kind of looking for these little curly brackets to be able to figure out kind of where I can divide this. All right, so it looks like I've got information about the list itself, like content type, whether it's got a document information policy, things like that. And then I've got fields, and let's see, where are my items? Here we go. Let's see. So here are some items that I have in here. Those are my columns. And here are some, so this is an item. Don't worry, this is all going to make sense. Job title, engineer, cell phone, blah, blah, blah. So this is all the information about one particular item in my list right here. So the way JSON is structured is I need to know, it's sort of like a table inside of it. It's like sort of got sublists inside of it. So like this D is like the root, and then results is like a subtable. And then I have all this information about all my results. And then I have like each result in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this D and this results thing in my workflow. And I'll show you more, and I'll show you a different web service that's not a SharePoint web service to kind of show you another example of how they structure this JSON. And what I did is I just Googled what is JSON and then I realized that that's kind of how they have it structured into like these little sort of brackets determine sort of little subtables inside of here. So it's all good. All right, so I'm going to go to my workflow, and I want to go get particular like set of information. I'll delete this thing. I want to go get a set of information from this list. I want to go get those items. So I'm going to go get, this is another one of those, it's related to the dictionary. So I say, what am I getting, and from what dictionary am I getting it? So I'm going to get, and so you might have seen if you've read blog posts about how to go get, SharePoint web service information, it'll always say get D/results. So if you ever want to know what the heck D/results is, that's where it comes from. That's sort of the way it's structured in the JSON. So I'm going to output that out to, I'm going to say list data set as a dictionary. And then I want to, this is where you can decide what you're going to do. So what would I do with my results next? So it's going to give each result an index number, like for example, the first item that I come to, let's go to my customer contacts. It's going to go get all the customers where company is equal to Contoso, and then it's going to give them an index like 1, 2, 3, or actually I think it's going to be 0, 1, 2. So as it iterates through them, it's going to go 0, 1, 2, and it's going to go get the information about each thing. All right, so let's go, before we start looping through things, let's go just get the information about one specific thing in here. All right, so how do you structure that? So I go get, so it's just getting all my results, but let's go look at get, and I'm going to do, just copy that. Oops. Title from, let me do list data set. So I'm going to do title. So title is going to be just whatever that generic title field. Every single list in SharePoint has a title field, so you can't go wrong with that. So then I also had another one called company. Well, I already know I filtered them all by that company called Contoso, but I can go get another one like email. I could do that. So let's go see what I've got. Email, I've got status. Let's go see what the email field is actually called. I need to make sure I have that exact field name. So field equals email. I can see that in my status bar down at the very bottom of the screen. So I'll go get email. All right, go copy that. And I'm spitting it out to a variable. So this is going to go find the first result, 0, and it's going to spit it out to be, and this one's going to be like my email is a string, and my title is a string. Okay, now we can log what it's doing. So log title, and then just kind of tell me what the heck is in these variables that it's getting. My title and email, my email. So I'm just going and getting two particular, like from the very first item, 0, that it comes across, it's going to go get the title and email from that item, and it's going to spit it out in a log. All right. You guys are very quiet. Yes, you're right, 5.11.7. Changing the language setting to JSON does help a little bit. I don't know why this workflow is taking so long to publish today. So let's go look at what it's going to do. Let's go look at the JSON again. Now what it's going to do is it's going to go find item 0, which is going to be the first thing it comes across. And it's going to, let's see, it's going to have a, like a, where is it? It's hard. It's really hard to decipher this stuff when you're just looking at the raw code, but it is going to have like a way that it numbers them all when it returns them. So trust me, it's like this little number in parentheses is going to be the one that it goes and gets. Now when we start looping through things, and I'll just start talking about that before I go any further. When we're going to start looping through things, we don't want to just necessarily go get one thing. We want to maybe go get a few, go get all the ones that have company is equal to Contoso. So then we would go and we'd have to increment that number up, this little index number. All right, so let's go back to our site, and we're going to go run our workflow again. Just manually kick it off because we're testing. I don't think the column names are case sensitive, no. And please work this time. Okay, so it's running. Let's go see what it's doing. All right, it's suspended. Ooh. Looking up a value using a key is not supported or on an instance. Okay, that's fine. Looking up a value using a key. All right, what does that mean? Let's go see. Data results from. Oh, that's what I did. I used the wrong. So this is getting the whole list, and this is going to get one specific thing, and I was getting it from the wrong specific thing. See, this is just getting everything, and then this is, yeah. So I was just looking at the wrong dictionary. And in the meantime, while that's publishing, I'll go pull up that other blog post that I wrote on looping through and point out a couple things. All right, so I wrote this down where, and I tell you how to do this little accept and content type thing in here. And then this is where I show you how to get all the items, but then I showed you in the demo just now how you can do that little filter thing and put the filter right in here. And then I tell you how to get the GUID and what to put when you're getting the items from the dictionary, the D results. But now you've seen kind of what that D results looks like the raw code. So now you can kind of understand what it's doing. And then if you want to be able to loop through the things in the data set that it returns, that's when we're going to start doing the count items. So we haven't done that part yet. And so you want to be able to set a number, and every time it loops through and goes through one item, it needs to increment the number up so that it will be able to go through and find the next ones. All right, so let's go find my workflow that errored out and kill it. And go run it again. And also in my example blog post that I wrote, the example was having a list of people, and then for each person in that SharePoint list, it would go loop through a different list, which is a list of tasks, and it would go get all the overdue tasks for that person. So I'd like you to brainstorm, I'd like you guys to brainstorm and think of reasons and different ways that reasons you'd want to go, loop through things. So title is Jetson and email is blank. So let's go look and see if that's correct. Customer contacts, title. So this is Jetson, and email, it does have an email address in it. So yeah, I'm not sure why it would return nothing, but that's good. It's at least showing us that one item, and it is from Contoso. Maroon, I don't think you finished typing your question, but here's the blog post. I just posted it in there. All right. Now let's go. I could double check what that email syntax is, and I could also go get some different fields too, but we've only got like half an hour left. I want to go move on through to the looping part. So what we're going to do is, let me pull this over here. And so what we want to do is not go get just the results from that specific one, but we want to go start looping through all of them. So we want to count all the items that it returns. So count, because we need to know how many times to do the loop. Count all the items that it returns in this whole data set. So outputs to the variable called count. And then I need to have an index, which is what's going to count up as it loops through each one. So my index variable is going to be an integer. So let's see, I'll go I gotta start by setting it to 0. Set workflow variable, index, integer to 0. All right, and then that's when I need to start doing my looping. So I'll go loop. So I want to say loop with condition. Double check. Yeah, loop with condition. Loop through contacts. Okay, this is going to loop repeatedly while, and I guess theoretically I could do just loop through this many times, whatever the variable count is. So there's a couple of different ways I can do it, but I'm just going to do kind of the way I usually do it is a loop with condition. So let's see, I'm going to do loop while index, workflow variables, index is less than, and then put, I guess you have a little more freedom when you do this one with condition. You have more freedom kind of as it's running to be able to do stuff. Is less than count. Okay. And then the things I'm going to put in the loop are going to get a specific result. So I'm going to just delete the email one right now, because let's just go practice this. So in here, I need to go get whatever that specific index is. So it's starting off with 0. The value of index is 0, but I'm going to increment it up. Now, if you guys love getting in the nitty-gritty and learning about like really deep workflow troubleshooting and getting around in here and logging and troubleshooting, just working in here and being able to understand what all the variables are and things like that. I teach a whole week-long workflows and forms class, and this is mostly what we do, is just digging into SharePoint Designer 2013 workflows. It's not a lot of the web services stuff, but it's a lot of just all this understanding what these working with variables, and just a ton of troubleshooting. All right, so I'm going to go loop through. I'm going to go get the title for each thing and output it to my title, and then I'm just going to log it for now. Log whatever my title says. And then the important part is that I need to add one to the index. So I'm going to do a calculation. So I'm going to say index plus 1. And that way, then it will loop through, then it will go loop through again. So set the workflow variable called index to now be this new value. And then it'll loop through again, and then it'll get the next item, then it'll loop through again, etc. And then it'll get all 3 of those items that have Contoso as the contact, and it will log each one. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of that, and then log finish loop. And then I'm going to move on to, after I show you how this works, I'm going to move on to showing you a web service that's not SharePoint. So that's fun stuff. So let's see. All right, so just real quick, I'm going to show you what this is if you want to. It's called Legiscan. And so think about all the legislatures and bills and things in government. They have an API, and it's a web service. And so it's a good example of, so here's what your web service call would be, and then it returns a list of information, and then that's when you dissect it and figure out how to go get the specific information you want from it. This could be any web service, though. Could be a web service that a programmer wrote in your company. It could be that maybe goes to a SQL database or something. It could be a web service to anything. So this is one that I've been working with for a project I'm on, and it's a web service that taps into legislatures. Maroon, it is an online live class, or it is self-paced, and the workflow class is for, well, we work in SharePoint Designer 2013. We don't cover that many things that are specific that you couldn't do in 2010 and 2013. I don't know if that's what you're comparing it to. 2010 and 2013 workflows have a lot in common. There isn't that much drastically different with 2013, if that's what you're asking. So yeah, that's on my website. All right, let's see if it finished publishing, and then I'll show you what that one would look like to go kind of dissect how to get stuff out of it. All right, so that one published, and let's go run it. All right, let's go back to workflows. Sometimes that takes a second, and refresh that page since I republished it. So R.R. Toland, you said you agreed that yes, you can do different site collections, different farms, and as I'm about to show you, completely different systems, not even SharePoint, but isn't there a certain extra set of, like, a different API call you have to do if you're going across to a different site collection? There's something extra you have to do, right, R.R. Toland? All right, so I think I just ran it. Did I just run it? Let me see. I'm going to run it again just for fun, just in case. All right. And a lot of the concepts we talk about, like the troubleshooting and getting around, and concepts like variables and stuff, they're the same in 2010 and 2013. All right, look at that. It worked. So it got the 3 items, Jetson, Dude Man, and Me. And those are right here. So they're the 3 Contoso ones. So I'll filter by Contoso, and it got da, da, da. So, and it returned them. So then it's going to be up to me to go whatever I want to do with those. Do I want to go write information to those items, or do I want to take that list of items and concatenate them together and put them in an email, or what do I want to do with them? So sky's the limit. All right, let's go look at another one. So this is going to be a completely different database that we can tap into. So this is going to be legislatures. I go do this query to this Legiscan database, and this is what it spits back with my JSON. So I'm dissecting it here. So I kind of started putting just carriage returns after I saw all these little curly brackets. So it's going to have basic information about what a specific bill is. It does have a query you can do to get all of them, but this is like once you get all of them, you can go query a specific one. So it's got like the name of the bill, it's got progress, it's got all these different updates that happen. So all these things happen with it where they make updates, they have meetings and things like that. And these are all updates, but then it's got like these separate little subtables in it. It's got sponsors. So it's going to have a list of people. This one has only got a couple, so it's got a few people here, like it's got people's names. So it's got a list of people. So these are all like the sponsors for that bill as it's in the legislature. So it's going to have a subtable of all these people. So here are all their names, and it's got like their first name, last name, etc. So if I want to go in here and get what party that person is with, I can go type party as, when I'm getting my results out of here, or I can do name. So that's where I can like really dig in and say, okay, I want to go just like we did get d/results for the SharePoint thing. This one would be /sponsors. And then I would say get sponsors and go get their name or something like that. And then I also have another subtable. I have a calendar of hearings. So these are all the hearings that happen for this specific, that are related to this specific measure. So it has what room they're going to happen in, what the name of the hearing is, the date that it's going to happen. So I'm able to go use my web service to go tap in and do this query just from a SharePoint Designer workflow and go get all this information. So let's go see. I can show you some of this stuff. Let's show you just like one specific thing with like the people that I did. All right. Copy, paste that over here. So I'm just going to put this in a different stage. I'm not going to put the web service call and everything in here. I just want to show you just some of what the things are that involve. So get bill/sponsors. So when I looked at the JSON, we've got bill is the very first sort of, that's where this opening bracket starts. So everything under bill is all these other brackets. So it's going to be bill/ and then sponsors was this other one. The only way you can find these is by looking at these brackets and curly brackets. So then I go get all the sponsors. So it's going to get bill/sponsors and spit back a list of people. And then it's going to go count all those items so that I can loop through them. And then it's going to get all their names. And so what I'm going to do is loop through and get all their names and mash them and concatenate them together into one value so that I can just say, have a field in SharePoint that just says sponsor names, and it's just got so-and-so, first name, last name, comma, first name, last name, comma, blah, blah, blah. So I'm mashing them all together. So I'm looping through every individual sponsor and I'm mashing them all together so that I can have them in one field. So it goes and gets their name. So where did I get name? That is going to be right here. See, sponsors / name, and that's their first name, last name. This is stuff that I've been figuring out and working on over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. So I've been like very immersed in it. That's kind of why I wanted to share it with you. So it goes and gets their name, and it outputs it to a variable. So that's a committee person. That's one person. And then it goes and counts to the next number up. But then what I want to do is if it's the last person, I don't want to put a comma after their name, but every other person I want to put a comma after it. So again, this could be SharePoint, this could be some other place, like whatever you're using. These are all things that you can do with any kind of data that you're wanting to go get or loop through. So it's basically saying if it's the last one, if the index equals the count, then it's just going to say set person comma to just the person's name. That way it won't have a comma after it. But if it's anyone else in the list, it's going to say put this variable and then put a comma space. So basically at the end it's saying committee people, and it's mashing together all the people it's accumulated so far that it's looped through with that last one, and then it spits it all out as a field with a bunch of people's names in it. Did I just blow your mind or what? I mean, so this workflow that I've been working on is like, it's probably 6 pages long, like, you know, scrolling down, because it's going into this that data source, and it's going and getting all those sort of little subtables full of information. Is it kind of fun, right? Let's see. You guys have some comments? Wow, let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, Archel, and the OAuth token to cross-site collections. Is there a reference that you have for that to be able to kind of what those actions would need to look like in the workflow? I think I've done it at some point and maybe found it on somebody's blog post, but yeah, there is that extra thing you need to be able to do to go across site collections. Maroon says, could the JSON data you get back be rendered in a SharePoint web page? Maybe, but you'd probably want to just have it put the data in a SharePoint list, and that way it's nice and neat data, and it's not just like bleh, a whole bunch of gobbledygook. So that's kind of the whole point of being able to iterate through those items, is so you can do something nice and neat, like put it in a SharePoint list. Apparently I was showing something that my head was in front of. Sorry about that. Let's see. Let me go back to my other scene. Okay. We'll just talk through some of your questions since we've just got a few more minutes left. Yeah, Maroon, if you wanted to go present a bunch of data, I would use the content search web part for that, to be able to go just, if you want to just show some live data from SharePoint. Usually when you want to go loop through things, it's going to be, okay, well, I want to take this subset of data and do something with it, like change it, alter each item and do something with them, or like put them in an email, or like for overdue tasks and things like that. So I don't think that this is going to, looping through things in SharePoint, I don't think you're going to use a scenario where you'd want to just display that on a page. You'd use like the content search web part. You wouldn't use this. So it's just kind of a different use case for that. What's the best practice for copying and pasting a workflow from one site collection to another? Well, you can't copy and paste from a 2010 workflow to a 2013 one. It has to be 2013 to 2013. So I would just recreate it. If you're trying to go from one site collection to another, just the neatest way is, that's what I do, is I would just, especially if it's from 2010 to 2013, because you're gonna have different actions and different ways you might want to do things. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, content search web part, Maroon. All right, so let's see. We had some people making comments in the other one. let's see, do you guys want to, maybe we can do a little bit more with that data that we had in SharePoint and go like do something further with it, like make the workflow loop through the items and then do something with them and then put them, like concatenate them together. We can do that for the next 6 minutes. Let's just do that. Okay, so we're going to go back to, I'm going to take this thing about the legislature out of here. And then, so we're looping through contacts. So what do we do with them once we loop through them? So the way that I was doing it here was I was creating just a string variable. And as I loop through each thing, I was adding it to that string variable. Another thing you can do is get the ID of the item and do something with the item. So let's go see, let's get copy and paste, go get the ID. Oops, like that. And call it, I wonder if it would need it to be a string with the ID. I think we'll just do it as a string. That's a safe way to do it. And then I can go do something to that item. I can go update item in this list. So I can go over to my customer contacts list and I can say set this field status to inactive. So everything that's Contoso, I'm going to set it to inactive, where the ID is equal to basically this ID that I just got for this item. So I'm inside the loop here. So this is going to be that specific ID. So I'm going to go set the status. So as it goes through each one at a time in this loop, it's going to go set it to inactive. I can also, like in this one, I just hard coded Contoso in here, but I could have something else like, let's just say I had a parameter, like a workflow parameter. So I can go create an initiation parameter and I could say customer. I'm just going to do just text. In the real world, you might want to have like a drop down box. So when you start the workflow, you type the name of the customer that you want to deactivate. And then that way when it does this call and goes and filters by the customer, it's going to equal whatever you typed in your parameter. Ooh, fun stuff, right? But it's still in quotes. Okay, and then it's going to go update the item and make them inactive. And then it's going to go, let's see, I'm going to go set a workflow variable called string of people to I don't think I need to set it to anything by default. Let me see. I was looking at my blog post to see when I created like this string at the beginning, am I setting it to something? Oh, it's hard to figure out my way through that thing. All right, set string of people to blank. Just starting it off as blank. And then set string of people to string of people to itself. And then this new person that it just got, this new contact. So this is going to be title. And go. Okay, so then it's going to loop through all those, set them as inactive, and we're going to try all that out in the next 2 minutes. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Corey's like probably trying to text me or something. Oh, gotta love this error. Okay, so I'll show you in a second what I did. I gotta wait. Whenever you get this error, this is a very, very common error in SharePoint Designer 2013 workflows. Basically, if you leave it open for a few minutes, it will it will just time out. So then when you try and publish your workflow, it tells you that the underlying connection was closed. Have you guys seen that happen? Sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. It's just taking a second. There's just a 30-second delay. So you guys were typing 30 seconds ago that I wasn't sharing my screen. But now it's just publishing. So it's going to take the next 2 minutes of Power Hour to publish what I did. But I'll do a recap real quick if it would ever finish. So you got to love that, because it tells you that it won't publish it because the underlying connection was closed. So you have to refresh it. But then it goes and finishes through this progress bar while while it's telling you to wait that it won't publish it. So now I'm refreshing it. Okay, so what I did was I created initiation form parameter that's text. It's just a single line of text. And then I'm going to getting the ID of the item. So I just copied this title and made it ID and created a variable called my ID. And then I'm going to update the customer contact where the ID is equal to this variable. So I'm going to edit that item in SharePoint, and I'm going to set the status to inactive. All right, and then this string of people thing is I'm trying to concatenate together just the titles of the different contacts. So I'm setting my string of people to itself plus this variable, my title. All right, so it finished. Did it finish refreshing yet? No. Sorry about that, guys. That's what I get for switching back and forth, huh? All right, it is still doing something. All right, publish, finally. Okay, so let me go back over to the site. And I'll add one more thing in there to show you how you can make this, just do this on a loop. Actually, my blog post shows you how you could do it to make it pause. So you just you would add your pause in there. See, pause until tomorrow. So of course you would say, pause for 24 hours or something like that, but that's how you do the stages, and I already wrote that down. All right. Oh, thanks, R. Toland, for the information about that, for the OAuth thing. Okay, I'm gonna refresh this. Perfect. Okay. And so now let's see, make sure that it finished publishing. No, God, are you kidding me? Ooh, that's a new one. That's awesome. Not sure what that's related to. Maybe it's my string of people. All right, well, I was just trying to kind of throw in a few extra things at the end there. But let's see. Yeah, I don't know if I have time to wait for that thing, but the idea was that I was putting the name of a customer. You're going to type the name of a customer in when I start the workflow, and that way it would, whatever name of the customer that I typed in, that would be the customer that it would filter by. So as soon as this finishes spazzing out over here, I'll show you that, but we kind of have to stop. So all right. Wow, those are a lot of good links. Thanks so much. Yeah, good stuff. And then there are also the links that I wrote in my blog post about this. Of course, 1 hour does not do this stuff justice, but the idea was that instead of just, reading blog posts that kind of explain how to do some of this stuff, I was trying to show you kind of what the data looks like and how to be able to go interpret it yourself. So this is the part that you guys missed earlier, where I said company equals and then parameter customer. And that way I would have that parameter as whatever customer I type in would be the one that it would query. So let's see. We'll see if it publishes one more time, and then that'll be done. Oh, thank you for the applause. I like that. There's it's Dancing with. Is that Dancing with the Stars? No. What is that? Any last questions? Or those of you who have done this before, any examples that you wanted to share? Let me close this stuff. I don't know why my SharePoint Designer workflows are taking so long to publish today. It's just, it loves me. You gotta love just sitting here watching a bar go across the page. I really just want to show you that one more thing, and yeah. All right, so other examples of this could be just needing to do anything that goes across to different sites and site collections. I mean, that's huge. Okay, we'll go kick this off one more time. Let me refresh this. It should ask me for a company, and I'm just going to type in Contoso just to be safe, because I know that's one I've been using. So I'm triggering my workflow, so it asks me who it is. So instead of me hard coding Contoso into the workflow, the person's typing in Contoso. Thanks, guys. All right, now let's go see if magic is happening. It should be going through at least and setting all those to inactive. Okay, it logged them. Let's go see. It hasn't done it yet, so maybe we'll see if it's... Sometimes these things take a minute. What am I doing next week? I don't know. Started. Oh, I don't know if that's a good sign or not. It's still running. It's just thinking about it. Completed. Okay. Let's go see what it did. Customer contacts. Oh, look at that. It worked. It set my 3 Contoso contacts as inactive. Woohoo. All right. Done. Okay. Well, back to this. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm not sure what I'm doing next week. Put some suggestions in the little general tab under channels. I've just been immersed in this workflow web services stuff in the past couple weeks, so that's why I wanted to demo that this week. But thanks everybody for coming. See you next time.